African American poetry is full of history and story. There are poems of pain, joy, sadness, and laughter, terror and peace. There is love and admiration in African American poetry, as well as nature, poverty and riches, beauty and that which is ugly. There is song and protest, godliness and godlessness. There is not a single experience that African American poetry does not cover. There is not a story that it does not tell. This is an opportunity to hear our history, hear our stories. Many agree that the history of African American poetry begins with the kidnapping of black people from the shores of West Africa. There are poets like Lucy Terry and Jupiter Hyman, and more specifically, the kidnapping of Phillis Wheatley from Gambia, West Africa, when she was approximately 7 years old. Scholars agree that Wheatley was one of the few Americans to publish a volume of the poetry in the 18th century. Definitely the only enslaved human being. Remarkable, since the system of slavery questioned the very humanity of black people and denied them the opportunity to learn how to read and write. Wheatley's volume of poetry, called Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, was published in 1773, the same year that John Wheatley set her free. Phillis Wheatley was a national and international sensation, and still is, as her work is often included in poetry anthologies today.
A Hymn to the Evening by Phillis Wheatley. Soon as the sun forsook the eastern main, the pealing thunder shook the heavenly plain. Majestic grandeur from the zephyr's wing exhales the incense of the blooming spring. Soft pearled streams, the birds renew their notes, and through the air their mingled music floats. Through all the heavens, what beauteous dyes are spread, but the west glories in the deepest red. So may our breasts with every virtue glow, the living temples of our God below, filled with the praise of Him who gives the light and draws the sable curtains of the night. Let placid slumbers soothe each weary mind, at morn to wake more heavenly, more refined. So shall the labors of the day begin, more pure, more guarded from the snares of sin. Night's leaden scepter seals my drowsy eyes, then cease my song till fair aurora rise.
Phillis Wheatley was not alone in her literary endeavors. Lucy Terry and Jupiter Hammond wrote single poems and essays, but George Moses Horton, he published several volumes of poetry. George Moses Horton was born on a tobacco plantation in North Carolina. He would compose poems in his head because he could not read or write. He would sell the poems he composed to the students at the University of North Carolina, and they, in turn, would give them to their significant others as earnest gifts. George Moses Horton did learn to read and write, and in 1829 he published his first book of poetry, The Hope of Liberty. George Moses Horton is the first black man to publish a book in the South, and, most importantly, the first to protest his slavery in his poems. Although the general public and the governor himself were in favor of Horton receiving his freedom, the plantation owner refused to allow him to buy it. So, instead, George Moses Horton used the profits from his books and the poems he wrote for students to buy hours of his time so that he could use it in his writing endeavors.
On Liberty and Slavery by George Moses Horton. Alas, and am I born for this, to wear this slavish chain, deprived of all created bliss, through hardship, toil, and pain? How long have I in bondage lain, and languished to be free? Alas, and must I still complain, deprived of liberty? O heaven, and is there no relief, this side the silent grave, to soothe the pain, to quell the grief, and anguish of a slave? Come, liberty, thy cheerful sound, roll through my ravished ears. Come, let my grief in joys be drowned, and drive away my fears. Say unto foul oppression, cease, ye tyrants rage no more, and let the joyful trump of peace Now bid the vassal soar. Soar on the pinions of that dove, which long has cooed for thee, and breathed her notes from Afric's grave, the sound of liberty. O liberty, thou golden prize, so often sought by blood, we crave thy sacred sun to rise, the gift of nature's God. And bid slavery hide her haggard face, and barbarism fly. I scorn to see the sad disgrace in which enslaved I lie. Dear liberty, upon thy breast I languish to respire, and like the sun unto her nest, I'd like to thy smiles retire. O blessed asylum, heavenly balm, unto thy boughs I flee, and in thy shade the storm shall calm with songs of liberty.
The horror-filled system of slavery did eventually end in 1865, over 200 years after it started. This opened the door for African Americans to have hope. Hope for building families, creating homes, building wealth, participating in democracy. Hope persisted while the dreams and goals of African Americans were still a long time before coming. But the history and the stories did not stop during this time, 1865 through 1877, known as Reconstruction. Paul Laurence Dunbar was born in 1872, near the end of Reconstruction. His prolific works are the bridge between Reconstruction and what we call the Harlem Renaissance. His work has been fraught with controversy because some believe that Paul Laurence Dunbar pandered to the white audience in his writing, creating stories and poems that were filled with what some call a stereotypical slave dialect. Despite this criticism, Dunbar often wrote of the plight of black people during slavery and after. His depictions often showed the struggle of hardship that many African Americans had to endure. For this reason, his ability to write and participate as much as possible on both sides of the fence, Dunbar was, and is, considered by many a master and role model of African American writing.
We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtle tiles. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but, O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask.
From the words of James Weldon Johnson, a group of young men in Jacksonville, Florida, arranged to celebrate Lincoln's birthday in 1900. My brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, and I decided to write a song to be sung at the exercises. I wrote the words and he wrote the music. Our New York publisher, Edward B. Marks, made mimeograph copies for us, and the song was taught to and sung by a chorus of 500 colored school children. Shortly afterwards, my brother and I moved away from Jacksonville to New York, and the song passed out of our minds. But the school children of Jacksonville kept singing it. They went off to other schools and sang it. They became teachers and taught it to other children. Within 20 years, it was being sung over the South and in some other parts of the country. Today, the song, popularly known as the Negro National Hymn, is quite generally used. The lines of this song repay me an elation, almost of exquisite anguish, whenever I hear them sung by Negro children.
Sing. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought to us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on. Let us march on. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on.
In 1919, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, adopts Lift Every Voice and Sing as the official Negro national anthem. During 1919, many African Americans were migrating from the South, finding their way to the North, to cities like Chicago, Detroit, New York, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Indianapolis. African Americans were hoping to find a chance at better work opportunities, better pay, and less racism. But during 1919, that would not be the case, for 1919 was also the year of the Red Summer. White supremacists were terrorizing African Americans all over the United States. Even the black veterans who had just returned from fighting World War I were not exempt from the terror. Race riots took place in over 30 cities across the U.S. Whole cities of black people were massacred. Black homes and business burned to the ground. There were 97 recorded lynchings. We know that there were far more lynchings than that. They simply weren't recorded. The Ku Klux Klan experienced an uptick in membership and rode across the South with vengeance. The NAACP also increased its membership numbers at this time, from 9,000 to 100,000. Members were of all races and worked to advocate for the civil and human rights of black people. That summer wasn't the end of racial violence against black people. Many more lynchings, burnings, and massacres would take place for years to come.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh, and the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for a tree to drop. Here's a strange and bitter crop.
Despite the terror and violence that African Americans endured in the early 20th century, their history and stories continued in the form of poetry, especially during this time, approximately 1919 to 1935. African American arts flourished in what is now known as the Harlem Renaissance. Black musicians, writers, dancers, artists, photographers, actors, folklorists blossomed. In major cities all over the country, and especially New York and D.C., African Americans were creating and sharing their work. They would gather together in salons and talk about art, music, philosophy, and literature. They would put on their party best and head to the clubs to dance to jazz and listen to blues. Some of the best-known poets and musicians come from this period, the Harlem Renaissance. Claude McKay was born in Jamaica, but eventually found his way to the United States, where he became a prolific and important figure of the Harlem Renaissance. McKay is noted for his poems, essays, and stories about Jamaican life, as well as works that highlighted the racial and economic inequities of black life in America. Langston Hughes, also a prolific and highly noted figure of this period, was the first black author to support himself solely on his writings and lecture circuit. He often wrote about the common experiences of working-class African Americans and was often criticized for this. Hughes wanted to see all African Americans, poor, working class, middle class, well-to-do, as they were, not idealized, romanticized, or stereotyped. In his famous essay, The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, he stated, "We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful, and ugly too." Some of his most famous work was also written for children.
If We Must Die by Claude McKay. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. If we must die, oh let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows deal one death blow. What thou before us lies, the open grave. Like men, we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back.
The Negro speaks of rivers. I've known rivers. I've known rivers, ancient as the world, and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep, like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep, like the rivers.
Langston Hughes, to you. To sit down and dream, sit and read, to sit and learn about the world, outside our world of here and now, our problem world. To dream of vast horizons of the soul, through dreams made whole, unfettered free, help me. All you who are dreamers too, help me make our world anew. I reach out my dreams to you.
Saturday's Child by Cowtley Cullen. Some are teethed on a silver spoon, with stars strung for a rattle. I cut my teeth as the black raccoon for implements of battle. Some are swaddled in silk and down, and heralded by a star. They swathed my limbs in a sackcloth gown on a night that was black as tar. For some, Godfather and goddamn the opulent fairies be. Damn poverty gave me my name, and pain godfathered me. For I was born on Saturday, bad time for planting seed, was all my father had to say, and one mouth more to feed. Death cut the strings that gave me life and handed me to sorrow, the only kind of middle wife my folks could beg or borrow.
Harlem Night Song by Langston Hughes. Come, let us roam the night together singing, I love you. Across the Harlem rooftops moon is shining, night sky is blue. Stars are great drops of golden dew. Down the street a band is playing, I love you. Come, let us roam the night together singing.
Women were a very important part of the period known as the Harlem Renaissance. They participated in all aspects of the arts: editing, singing, dancing, writing. Alelia Walker, daughter of African-American millionaire Madam C.J. Walker, also funded many African-American artists and hosted a number of salons in order to introduce their work and to disseminate it widely. Gwendolyn Bennett was a journalist, but also wrote poetry and contributed to other aspects of the arts.
To a dark girl, Gwendolyn Bennett. I love you for your brownness and the rounded darkness of your breast. I love you for the breaking sadness in your voice and shadows where your wayward eyelids rest. Something of old forgotten queens lurks in the lithe abandon of your walk, and something of the shackled slave sobs in the rhythm of your talk. Oh, little brown girl, born for sorrow's mate, keep all you have of queenliness, forgetting that you were slave, and let your full lips laugh at fate.
The Great Depression, approximately 1929 to 1933, brought devastation and poverty to many people across the country. But who had it worse? Those who had been poor and struggling before the Great Depression, and definitely African Americans. But African Americans found individual and collective joy. Couldn't pay your rent? Host a party at your home and charge people money to attend. The money you earn by the end of the evening would hopefully be enough to pay your rent the next day. Joyful creativity continued despite the struggles of the Depression.
For My People by Margaret Walker. For my people, everywhere, singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years, and the now years, and the maybe years, washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, plowing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sand of Alabama backyards, playing, baptizing and preaching, and doctor and jail, and soldier and school, and mama, and cooking, and playhouse, and concert, and store, and hair, and Miss Chumby and company. For the cramped, bewildered years we went to school to learn, to know the reasons why, and the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when, in memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black and poor, and small and different, and nobody cared, and nobody wondered, and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things to be man and woman, to laugh and dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people, thronging 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans, lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people, filling the cabarets and taverns and other people's pockets, and eating bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people, walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omnisciently and laugh. For my people, blundering and groping and floundering in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and deceived and devoured by money-hungry, glory-craving leeches, preyed on by facile force of state and fad and novelty, by false prophet and holy believer. For my people, standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all the people, all the faces, all the Adams and Eves, and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control.
Mingus by Bob Kaufman. String-chewing bass players plucking rolled balls of sound from the jazz-scented night. Feeding hungry beat seekers, finger-shaped heartbeats driving ivory nails into their greedy eyes. Smoke crystals from the nostrils of released jazz demons. Crash from the froggy yesterday to the light of imaginary night.
The 1940s and 1950s were an opportunity for the United States to recover economically from the Great Depression and ultimately World War II. Soldiers, black and white, were returning from the war and were seeking the promise of the American dream. The opportunities were boundless: marriage, families, home ownership in the newly minted suburbs, TVs, fast food, cars. Yet once again, African American soldiers found themselves scratching at the hope of the American dream, just as they did after their service in World War I. African Americans were still denied some of the most basic rights, so Black Americans continued to fight for those rights while also working together to build community. The 1950s and 1960s found African Americans celebrating their resilience and their beauty as they fought for desegregation of neighborhoods, stores, schools, and their workplaces. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, the Black Panther Party, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X, Freedom Summer, Ella Baker, Little Rock Nine, Rosa Parks, Montgomery Bus boycotts, all familiar names, places, and events in the fight for equality.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have faith, you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry on, right up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me.
If you need a friend, if you need somebody, just lean on me. We can work it out.
Call me, 'cause we shall overcome someday.
You got to lean on me. We shall overcome
African American poetry continued to flourish. In 1950, Gwendolyn Brooks was the first black author to win a Pulitzer Prize, and in 1959 graced us with one of the most anthologized poems.
We Real Cool by Gwendolyn Brooks. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late. We strike straight. We sing sin. We thin gin. We jazz June. We die soon.
Marie Evans, Vive Noir. I am going to rise en masse from inner city, sick of New York ghettos, Chicago tenements, A's slums, weary of exhausted lands, sagging privies, saying yes sir, yes sir, in an assortment of geographical dialects. I have seen my last broken down plantation, even from a distance. I will load up all my goods in 50 Chevy pickups, 53 Fords, Fly United, and 66 Caddies. I have packed in the old man and the old lady and wiped the children's noses. I'm tired of hand-me-downs, shut-me-ups, pin-me-ins, keep-me-outs, messing me over, have just had it. Baby, from you, I'm gonna spread out over America, intrude my proud blackness all over the place. I have wrested wheat fields from the forests, turned rivers from their courses, leveled mountains at a word, festooned the land with bridges, gem-like on filaments of steel moved, glistening towers of Babel in place, like blocks, sweated a whole civilization. Now I'm gonna breathe fire, through flaming nostrils burn a place for me, in the skyscrapers and the schoolrooms, on the green lawns and the white beaches. I'm gonna wear the robes and sit on the benches, make the rules and make the arrests say who can and who can't. Baby, you don't stand a chance. I'm gonna put black angels in all the books and a black Christ child in Mary's arms. I'm gonna make black bunnies black, fairies black, Santa's black, nursery rhymes, and black ice cream. I'm gonna make it a crime to be anything but black, past the copper tone. Gonna make white a 24-hour lifetime job. And when all the copper tone's gone?
Knoxville, Tennessee by Nikki Giovanni. I always like summer best. You can eat fresh corn from Daddy's garden, and okra, and greens, and cabbage, and lots of barbecue, and buttermilk, and homemade ice cream at the church picnic. And listen to gospel music outside at the church homecoming. And go to the mountains with your grandmother, and go barefooted and be warm, all the time, not only when you go to bed and sleep.
This is by Nina Simone. The name of this tune is Mississippi Goddamn, and I mean every word of it. Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest, and everybody knows about Mississippi Goddamn. Can't you see it? I know you can feel it. It's all in the air. I can't stand the pressure much longer. Somebody say a prayer. Hound dogs on my trail, school children sitting in jail, black cat cross my path. I think every day's gonna be my last. Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest. Everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn. Lord have mercy on this land of mine. We're all gonna get it in due time. I don't belong here. I don't belong there. I even stopped believing in prayer. Don't tell me, I'll tell you. Me and my people are just about due. I've been there, so I know. They keep on saying, go slow. But that's just the problem, too slow. Washing the windows, too slow. Picking the cotton, too slow. You're just plain rotten, too slow. You're too damn lazy, too slow. The thinking's crazy, too slow. Where am I going? What am I doing? I don't know. Just try to do my best, stand up and be counted with all the rest, and everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn. Picket lines, school boycotts, they try to say it's a communist plot. All I want is my equality for my sister, my brother, my people, and me. Yes, you lied to me all these years. You told me to wash and clean my ears and talk real fine, just like a lady, and you'd stop calling me Sister Sadie. My country is full of lies. We're all gonna die and die like flies. I don't trust you anymore. You keep on saying, go slow, but that's just the trouble. Too slow. Desegregation, too slow. Mass participation, too slow. Reunification, too slow. Do things gradually, too slow, but brings more tragedy, too slow. Why don't you see it? Why don't you feel it? I don't know. You don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality. Everybody knows about Mississippi. Everybody knows about Alabama. Everybody knows about Mississippi, goddamn.
The period covering the 1960s, early 70s was also called the Black Arts Movement, a time when black arts flourished and artists unapologetically created black art for black people by black people. Black artists asserted their history, their culture, their genius, and their beauty.
Nikki Rosa by Nikki Giovanni. Childhood remembrances are always a drag if you're black. You always remember things like living in Woodlawn with no inside toilet. And if you become famous or something, they never talk about how happy you were to have your mother all to yourself. And how good the water felt when you got your bath from one of those big tubs that folk in Chicago barbecue in. And somehow, when you talk about home, it never gets across how much you understood their feelings, as the whole family attended meetings about Hollydale. And even though you remember, your biographers never understand your father's pain as he sells his stock and another dream goes. And though you're poor, it isn't poverty that concerns you. And though they fought a lot, It isn't your father's drinking that makes any difference, but only that everybody is together and you and your sister have happy birthdays and very good Christmases. And I really hope no white person ever has cause to write about me, because they never understand Black love is Black wealth, and they'll probably talk about my hard childhood and never understand that all the while I was quite happy.
No mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. And the beauty that I saw in everything, the beauty in everything, yes, it was in her eyes, was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. So I never knew that my nose was too flat, and I never knew that my skin was too black, and I never knew that my clothes didn't fit, and I never knew there were things that I'd miss, and the beauty in everything, yes, was in her eyes, was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. And I was intrigued by the cracks in the walls, the dust in the sun looked like snow that would fall. The noise in the hallway was music to me, the trash and the rubbish would cushion my feet, and the beauty in everything, yes, it was in her eyes, was in her eyes. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. There were no mirrors in my Nana's house, no mirrors in my Nana's house. The world outside was a magical place. I only knew love and I didn't know hate. The beauty in everything, yes, it was in her eyes, was in her eyes. Child, look deep into my 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 eyes.
The Black Arts Movement was taken to heart. In the early 70s, art for Black people by Black people manifested on the blocks of Bronx neighborhoods. DJ Herc DJs his first block party in 1973. At house and street parties, Black MCs and DJs entertained and delighted partygoers with mad beats, deep bass, and isolations of funk and disco song favorites. The skillful mishmash of music, beats, bass, and talk growing out of the early 70s is what we know today as rap music.
This is Amiri Baraka's Wise Five. I overheard the other night, standing by the window of the big house, a negress say, through an alabaster mask, the first Negro was a white man. Slanty red darts angulate the darkness. My hands got cold, my head was sweaty, like a mystery story, like a gospel hymn, like the tales of the wizards and the life of the gods. I did not know who my father was. I only barely knew my mother, but I knew something that night about a Negro. Something even the TV can't wash away. I found out something about the Negro. The wind may blow, the train don't come, the mayor might belch, his mistress might gain weight, but I found out something that night about the Negro, and the world got clear. You can hooray all you want to, you can kiss an elephant's ass, but I found out something that night before I slid back to the field hands' quarters. I found out something about the magic of slavery, and I vowed not to be a slave no more.
Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang. I say hip hop, the hippie to the hippie. To the hip hop, and you don't stop and rock it. To the big bang boogie, say up jump the boogie. To the rhythm of the boogie, the beat. Now, what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are going to try to move your feet. See, I am Wonder Mike, and I'd like to say hello. To the black, to the white, the red, and the brown. The purple and the yellow. But first, I gotta bang bang the boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock, you don't stop. Rock the rhythm that will make your body rock. Well, so far, you've heard my voice, but I brought 2 friends along. And the next on the mic is my friend Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song.
By the early 80s, in acknowledgement of rap styles, West Coast and East Coast rap is honored with rap battles. Breakdancing, first associated with rap music and hip-hop culture, becomes mainstream with movies like Breakdance, Beat Street, and Breaking, which showcase street smarts and dance battles alongside music by up-and-coming rappers. Even Michael Jackson got in on the action when he introduced the moonwalk into his video and concert performances. Rap music flourished and has had a significant impact on many genres of music and cultures all over the world.
Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
In the 80s and early 90s, rap and poetry rode the waves of promise together. African American poetry continued to flourish. Poets like Maya Angelou, Lucille Clifton, Derek Walcott, Rita Dove, Marilyn Nelson, and Gwendolyn Brooks were winning Pulitzer, Robert Frost, and Nobel Awards for their work in reciting poems at presidential inaugurations. Rap music continued to grow and expand, and with such fertile soil, how could African Americans not participate in the 90s phenomenon of slam poetry? Slam poetry falls in the tradition of beat poetry and Negro Tube movement, which was led by black French-speaking poets. It is performative and typically focused on social issues. Russell Simmons' Def Poetry Jam aired on HBO for 5 seasons, showcasing the work of well-known as well as new and up-and-coming poets and musicians.
Heartbeats by Melvin Dixon. Workout, 10 laps, chin-ups, look good. Steam room, dress warm, call home, fresh air. Eat right, rest well, sweetheart, safe sex. Sore throat, long flu, hard nodes, beware. Test blood, count cells, reds thin, whites low. Dress warm, eat well, short breath, fatigue. Night sweats, dry cough, loose stools, weight loss. Get mad, fight back, call home, rest well. Don't cry, take charge. No sex, eat right. Call home, talk slow, chin up, no air. Arms wide, nose hard. Cough dry, hold on. Mouth wide, drink this, breathe in, breathe out. No air, breathe in, no air. Blackout, white rooms, head hot, feet cold. No work, eat right, CAT scan, chin up. Breathe in, breathe out, no air, no air. Thin blood, sore lungs, mouth dry, mind gone. 6 months, 3 weeks, can't eat, no air. Today, tonight, it waits for me. Sweetheart, don't stop. Breathe in, breathe out.
Emmett Till's Glass Top Casket, a poem by Cornelius Eady. By the time they cracked me open again, topside, abandoned in a tool shed, I had become another kind of nest. Not many people connect possums with Chicago, but this is where the city ends after all. And I float still, after the footfalls fade and the roots bloom around us. The fact was, everything that worked for my young man worked for my new tenants. The fact was, he had been gone for years. They lifted him from my embrace, and I was empty, ready. That's how the possums found me, friend. Dry docked, a tattered mercy hole. Once I held a boy who didn't look like a boy. When they finally remembered, they peeked through my clear top. Then their wild surprise.
The Enactment by Rita Dove. I'm just a girl who people were mean to on a bus. I could have been anybody. Mary Ware, Nee Smith. Can't use no teenager, especially no poor black trash, no matter what her parents do to keep up a living. Can't use anyone without sense enough to bite their tongue. It's gotta be a woman, someone of standing, preferably shy, preferably married, and she's got to know when the moment's right. Stay polite, though her shoulders aching. Bus driver, the same one threw her off 12 years before. Then all she's got to do is sit there, quiet, till the next moment finds her. And only then can she open her mouth to ask, "Why do you push us around?" And his answer, "I don't know, but the law is the law and you are under arrest." She must sit there and not smile. As they enter to carry her off, she must know who to call. Who will know whom else to call to bail her out? And only then can she stand up and exhale. Can she walk out the cell and down the jail steps, into flashbulbs and her employer's white arms, and go home to sit down in the seat we have prepared for her.
This is You Want Poems by Jessica Care Moore. When you are a woman, when you are brown, when you are brave, when you walk over glass like water, when you know your eyes are borrowed like time, when you peel off your skin for the very first time. Fear is never in style in the Mecca of the blue. Fear never lives in the gut of the new. You want poems, and I want to build my home. You want poems, and I just want love in my hands. You want poems, and I am not interested in fans. You love me inside my magic, and I just want you to see you already had it. It is in the telling when someone asks. It is the way he holds the glass, licks the surface, examines without touching. It is the way our energy takes over rooms. It is the subtle conversation. It is the freedom of emancipated language. It is in the words scribbled inside my skin. It is the curve of the line, the beauty of the lie, stories passed down through generations of pain and pride, ocean and tide. Water remembers, water returns. African mermaids blending with dark sand. It is the danger of the dance, the upright heart of the bass, the dice roll drum experiment, the cymbal tease, the last laugh, the addiction to this moment. Where else do I put it? Don't know where to put it. Place it, bury it deep in my chest, back of my throat. Where should I hide it? On this stage, should I give it to you? Here is my honesty, my work undressed, legs stretched across piano, traded like cattle, raped like animal, left for dead, sucked dry for inspiration, in love with the idea of living long enough to simply write about it, push it out my body, and watch my son slowly grow into it. You said you wanted a poem. Now what you gonna do with it? Huh? Whitney? Etta? Abby? Billy? Nina? Phyllis? How much time you got? I'm a body of clocks. I'm the master of mics. I'm the metaphor for survival. I am the gold they use to build their churches. A beautiful idea to flirt with. But who shall I marry? The moonlight? The sunrise? The white dove? The wolf? An eastern wind? This music? A prayer? How many babies we gon' make inside a song? Which revolution? Which nation shall we rule? The island of the spirit world, the beauty of the believers, the carpenters, the men who build the dream and place you on the front line of their planet. One day the stars will line up between breath and ink and voice, someplace between reality and choice. It is the danger of the dance, the upright bass of the heart, the dice roll drum experiment, the cymbal tease, the last laugh, the addiction to this moment.
Slam poetry has not seen its demise and probably won't for some time. The poetic form is embraced by so many young people today. Poetry slams are performed at high schools and universities all over the world, and national and international poetry slam competitions are vigorously attended. African American poets are diverse in their perspectives, their regions, their experiences. So there's always room for the new guard of poets who boldly create spaces for themselves, like Danez Smith, who was a National Book Award finalist, a winner of Lambda Literary Award, and a recipient of McKnight Foundation Fellowship.
Dear White America by Danez Smith. Dear White America, I have left Earth in search of darker planets, a solar system that revolves too near a black hole, another patch of dirt in my place, and you may not know the difference. We are indeed the same color. One of us will eventually become the other. I have left Earth in search of a new God. I do not trust the God you have given us. My grandmother's hallelujah is only outdone by the fear she nurses every time the blood-fat summer swallows another child who used to sing in the choir. Take your God back. Though his songs are beautiful, his miracles are inconsistent. I want the fate of Lazarus for Renisha, want Chucky, Bo, Meech, Trayvon, Sean, and Janila risen 3 days after their entombing, their ghost regifted flesh and blood, their flesh and blood regifted their children. I have left Earth. I am equal parts sick of your go back to Africa as I am your I just don't see color. Neither did the poplar tree. Neither did the poplar tree. We did not build your boats, although we did leave a trail of kin to guide us home. We did not build your prisons, although we did, and we fill them too. We did not ask to be a part of your America, though are we not America, her joints brittle and dragging a ripped gown through Oakland? I can't stand your ground. I am sick of calling your recklessness the law. Each night I count my brothers, and in the morning when some do not survive to be counted, I count the holes they leave. Your master magic trick, America, now he's breathing, now he don't. Abracadabra, white bread voodoo, systematic sorcery you claim not to practice but have no problem benefiting from. I tried, white people. I tried to love you, but you spent my brother's funeral making plans for brunch, talking too loud next to his bones. You interrupted my black-veiled morning with some mess about an article you read on BuzzFeed. You took one look at the river, plump with the body of boy after boy after boy, and asked, why does it always have to be about race? Because you made it that way. Because you put an asterisk next to my sister's gorgeous face, because you call her pretty for a black girl, because black girls go missing without a whisper of where, because there are no Amber Alerts for the amber-skinned girls, because our heroes end up strung out or strung up, because we did not invent the bullets, because crack, was that our recipe? Because Jordan boomed, because Emmett whistled, because Huey P. spoke, because Martin preached, because black boys have always been too loud to live. Because this land is scared of the black mind, because they have sold the black body and appropriated soul. Because it's taken my father's time and my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my niece's and my nephew's time. How much time do you want for your progress? I have left Earth to find a land where my kin can be safe. I will not rest until black people ain't but people the same color as the good, wet earth. Until that means something, until our existence is not up for debate, until it is honored and blessed and loved and left alone. Until then, I bid you well, I bid you war, I bid you our lives to gamble with no more. I have left Earth, and I am touching everything you beg your telescopes to show you. I am giving the stars their right names, and this life, this new story and history, you cannot steal or sell or hang or beat or drown or own or redline or shackle or silence or cheat or choke or cover up or jail or shoot or jail or shoot or jail or shoot or ruin. This, if only this one, is ours.
There are certain facts that cannot be disputed, by Juliana Huxtable. There I am, lost somewhere in 1/4 millimeter skin, boiling. I look down. Pores, follicles, and their negative spaces turn into strokes, are breaking apart, luminous, lofty, possessive. Strokes that break the boundaries regulated by optometry. The third party in the identity parade, presented as a depiction of, a facsimile of, an event. Dynastic, dialectic, historical document, archaeological object, infographic. The anthropologist broke in to say, look, over there, a Negro in its natural habitat. There I am. Look at my skin, and it's now a pale taupe peach covered in the densest tufts, small bundles of the darkest primate hair follicles, the same that line the top of my lower back. Melting a bit now, I lose my arms, and wet, sticky amoebas, a gross combination of jelly, crustaceous shells as my spine turns to putty, and I roll, and roll, and roll, and roll.
You, Therefore, by Reginald Shepard. You are like me. You will die too, but not today. You, incommensurate, therefore the hours shine. If I say to you I say, you have not been set to music, or broadcast live on the ghost radio. May never be an oil painting, or old master's charcoal sketch. You are a concordance of person, number, voice, and place. Strawberries spread through your name, as if it were budding shrubs. How you remind me of some spring, the waters as cool and clear. Late rain clings to your leaves, shaken by light wind, which is where you occur in grassy moonlight. And you are a lily, an aster, white trillium or viburnum, by all rights mine. White star in the meadow sky, the snow still arriving from its earthwards journey, here where there is no snow. I dreamed the snow was you, when there was snow. You are my right, have come to be my night. Your body takes on the dimensions of sleep. The shape of sleep becomes you. And you fall from the sky with several flowers. Words spill from your mouth in waves. And your lips taste like the sea, salt sweet. Trees and seas have flown away. I call it loving you. Home is nowhere. Therefore, you. A kind of dwell and welcome, song after all, and free of any Eden we can name.
Village Voices by Ashley Bryan. No drums, no steel band tonight, voices of the village out singing all instruments. Like roots, singing through tree trunks, voices branch out to leaves of melody. It is as if earth sings, trees sing, sky sings. It is as if in all the singing, the small island washed in ocean blues swims away.
Not an Elegy for Mike Brown by Danis Smith. I am sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy, his new name, his same old body, ordinary, black, dead thing. Bring him and we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling you get when you are looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once, a white girl was kidnapped, and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot, and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? Always something deserves to be burned. It's never the right thing nowadays. I demand a war to bring the dead boy back, no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do just fine. Look at what the Lord has made. Above Missouri, sweet smoke.
The Identity Repairman by Thomas Sayers Ellis. African, I am rooted, ask the land. I am lyric, ask the sea. Slave, America is where I became an animal. America is where I became a nigger. Negro, trapped here in segregation, trapped here in integration. Colored, I'm weary of working to prove myself equal. I will use education to make my children superior. Black, my heart is a fist. I fix blackness. My fist is a heart. I beat whiteness. African American, before I was born, I absorbed struggle. Just looking at history hurts.
Conspiracy, To Breathe Together by Camille T. Dungy. Last week, a woman smiled at my daughter, and I wondered if she might have been the sort of girl my mother says spat on my aunt when they were children in Virginia all those acts and laws ago. Half the time, I can't tell my experiences apart from the ghosts. A shirt my mother gave me settles into my chest. I should say onto my chest, but I am self-conscious. The way the men watch me while I move toward them makes my heart trip and slide and threaten to bruise, so that inside my chest I feel the pressure of her body, her mother's breasts, her mother's mother's big, loving bounty. I wear my daughter the way women other places are taught to wear their young. Sometimes, when people smile, I wonder if they think I am being quaintly primitive. The cloth I wrap her in is brightly patterned, African, and the baby's hair manes her alert head in such a way she's often been compared to an animal. There's a stroller in the garage, but I don't want to be taken as my own child's nanny. Half the time, I know my fears are mine alone. At my shower, a Cameroonian woman helped me practice putting a toy baby on my back. I stood in the middle of a circle of women, stooped over and fumbling with the cloth. Curious George was the only doll on hand, so the white women looked away, afraid I would hurt my baby, while the black woman looked away and thought about not thinking about monkeys. There's so much time in the world. how many ways can it be divided? I walk every day with my daughter and wonder what is happening in other people's minds. Half the time, I'm filled with terror. Half the time, I'm full of myself. The baby is sleeping on my back again. When I stand still, I can feel her breathing. But when I start to move, I lose her in the rhythms of my tread.
African American poetry is full of history and story. There are poems of pain, joy, sadness, and laughter, terror, and peace. There is love and admiration in African American poetry, as well as nature, poverty, and riches, beauty in that which is ugly. There is song and protest, godliness and godlessness, and also there is hope. There's not a single experience that African American poetry does not cover. There is not a story that it does not tell.
Words of Hope Amid Coronavirus Pandemic by Amanda Gorman. I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming. But there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on a porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbors bring her groceries. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees, with families, libraries, schools, waiters, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in lack thereof, for it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity, for it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain, give it purpose, use it. Read children's books, dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From a wave of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let every dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing, in testing times, we've became the best of beings.